one of the bigger conspiracy theories that I buy into, because it's mine, but man, I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure that anybody who ever talks about migraines is lying always. Like, I don't think they exist. I don't think migraines are, I'm pretty sure they're not real. Because with the exception of you, anyone I know who has complained about migraines has been the kind of person that seems to be a little bit on the attention-seeking behavior side, not real reliable, and not just because, you know, things, not just for missing things because of having migraines, but in general. You know, it seems like migraines are a real missing puzzle piece to the kind of life that this particular individual wants to live.
Like, migraines pop up at really opportune moments.
Yeah. You like, another migraine, eh? Oh, yeah. Imagine that.
It's funny. So it's kind of like, as someone who has gotten migraines since I was probably 11 or 12.
Allegedly. Yeah.
I remember I used to be like, hey, I should fake a migraine, because what would happen is whenever I got a migraine, I would get some ibuprofen and a Mountain Dew, because you had to get the caffeine. So I'd be like, oh man, I should fake a migraine. But I never could effectively do it, because the real thing was just so it was so obvious that it was there, and it was very difficult to fake all of that. But it's kind of like with a migraine, with someone faking a migraine, it's like people who say triggered, and they say like, oh, I was triggered. It's like there's an actual psychological thing there where like someone with PTSD gets triggered. And so you saying that you got triggered because somebody made a grumpy face at you is like, that's pretty shitty for the people who actually have PTSD and actually get triggered. So it's like, as someone who actually gets migraines, the people that are like the ones you're talking about, who just are like, oh, I've got a migraine, I don't want to come into work today. You know, where migraine is, it just so happens to coincide with when they were out till 2 a.m. drinking. You know, they wake up the next day with a migraine. Yeah, those people they're very frustrating.
This is a question for Carlos, because I just see him here. Carlos, I've never met a Mexican that has gotten a migraine. I've never had like a hardy Mexican friend that just works his dick off, you know, and is just like, oh man, this migraine is really giving it to me today. I don't know. It seems like a fragile white person sort of affliction. And that's no offense to anybody, but it just, I know a lot of Mexicans, never heard one of them say, oh man, this migraine's really getting my ass. So maybe they do get migraines, and then they don't talk about them. But just culturally, I wonder what the situation is there.
Hold on, I need to change the title of our show to "Do Mexicans Get Migraines?"
Well, wouldn't it be funny if migraines is the thing that gets us punted from YouTube?
Speaking of,
if you do get a migraine. Wait, I don't know if it works. Never mind. I thought it was going to be a really great. I had it in mind when I was asking too, but I realized that I was just going to ascribe some benefits to fucking CBD that I have no clue if they exist whatsoever.
Whatever. Carlos doesn't care if we. He doesn't care what we promise that his products can do.
Listen, if you, the only reason that Matt missed the show is because he ran out of his CBD.
That's true. I actually did run out of my CBD.
If you get a migraine, if you have migraines, this is a 110% guarantee. CBD literally cures migraines forever.
Within 90 seconds of taking it, your migraine will be gone and you'll never get another one.
That's right. And as we've postulated just moments ago, and you know, I think we haven't been refuted yet, Mexicans don't get migraines. So if you are going to get CBD, you want to make sure you get Mexican CBD, which is exactly what our friends Carlos and Vanessa
Seriously though, folks, hit up palomaverdecbd.com. Get yourself some quality CBD products from some quality people. Use promo code KING and you will save 25% off any order over $75. There's so many different promo codes now floating around for that one that I wonder how many people out there like listen to everyone's show who advertises for them, and they just, each time they order, they just cycle through the promo codes, or if they just stick to one promo code, they're like, "No, this is the one I'm going to support."
Yeah, I don't know who else is sponsored by Green Paloma, but like, do you think, just for example, do you think fucking Thad Russell needs the help? More than us? He probably doesn't. Renegade
Right.
University is doing fine. I would say the semi-employed dance teacher might need a little bit more of your patronage, than old Thad. So
Steven.
let's pump the fucking brakes on promo code Thad for a little bit.
Steven, stop being poor.
Yeah, I tried. Well, I didn't try, but yes, no, I will be poor for the remainder of my life, however long or short that may be. But yeah, I will say I did manage to, with very minimal effort, try and be a bit less poor, a little bit more comfortable, and just being in that mind frame actually worked out. And so, it's one of those things. We never talked about that. Did we ever talk about that?
About what?
About stop being poor. I wonder how many people that got mad about that have ever been in a gym and just kind of fucking, stared at like 315, laying on the floor, and they're trying to flick it up to their neck or trying to do reps with it or whatever, whatever. And they're just like, or I wonder if maybe they observe someone else, doing that, and they just hear them just go, all right, come on, lightweight. And they just walk over to, actually, sir, that looks like it's rather heavy. It's upwards of 300 pounds.
The average man can only bench press half of that weight.
Exactly. It's just one of those things. Just like it might be for you or for other people, a useful mentality to have. Maybe more useful. My mentality is I'm gonna be fucking poor forever. So is that a useful mentality? I wouldn't say that my life has gotten better since I, had that echoing in my head. So maybe if I said, "Hey, bitch, stop being poor," if I've got that kind of psychology, it would work for me and many others. But yeah, to see people's reactions to it is pretty funny. And it's kind of I also I saw maybe some of the same people who made the your money is your tax money that you made from not being poor is going to bomb brown children in Yemen. I think I saw some of the same people, if not definitely the same crowd, talk about working overtime and how much money went to taxes, or talk about different purchases that they made for certain items and stuff like it. And it's just like, okay, what is that tax money? Is that their special tax money that oddly enough, Best Buy, for example, might allocate for, not bombing Brent? Is that, do we have that earmarked? How does this all work?
I don't think they know.
Wild. Just wild.
Carlos says that he says it's insider information whether people use different promo codes or keep using the same one, but he says that our people are loyal. So that's good to hear, folks. We appreciate you.
We certainly do.
The over the weekend, yesterday actually, I watched I don't know how many of you guys out there are soccer fans, but I didn't used to be a soccer fan. I used to be one of those guys that thinks he's really clever, because every time someone brings up soccer, he's like, "Is that a real sport?"
Yep.
And like makes jokes about people flopping and stuff. That used to be me. And then I met my wife, the woman who was to become my wife, and she got me into soccer. And it's now I was gonna say it's a burden that I bear, but it's not a burden so much lately. It's been pretty fun lately. But yesterday the U.S. men's national team had an absolutely amazing game. It wasn't a dominant performance. It was amazing in just everything considered with the setup of the game. They played Mexico. For those of you who don't know, it was the U.S. men's team played the Mexican men's team, and there's a very significant rivalry there, and it's very it's not a friendly rivalry. We'll just put it that way. And Mexico has historically been significantly better. I think that this was a championship for the Gold Cup tournament, and I think this is like the 8th time that the two teams have met in the championship game, and the U.S. had won once before. So they won yesterday, and the U.S. sent out their basically like their C squad. It wasn't I don't think they had any major starters there. It was basically all of their second and third string guys, because all their their main players are with their other club teams and getting ready for the World Cup qualifiers. So it was a team of really young guys. I think the average age on the pitch for the starting 11 was 24, and they were all really young guys going up against basically the A squad for the Mexican team. And the way that it plays, so they play the 90 minutes with stoppage time after each 45-minute half, and then they if they're still tied, they go into extra time. They play 2 15-minute halves with a break in between. And so the US finally scored in the 117th minute. And it was so 3 minutes left in all of stoppage time. And if they'd still been tied, if they went that next 3 minutes and remained tied, then they would have gone to a penalty kick shootout. And that would have been, I don't know if my heart would have been able to handle that. But as it was, they wound up scoring, and in the 117th minute, the guy who scored, there was a fantastic bit of what would you call it? It's I guess it's justice. The guy who scored the winning goal, his name's Miles Robinson, and he plays for Atlanta United in Major League Soccer. And the coach for Atlanta United, when he first started playing for the team, is currently the coach for the Mexican team, and he's a little bit in the hot seat. And losing to the American second and third stringers in a championship in a tournament like that, tournament championship, is going to have him on the hot seat. So there was this brilliant bit of like a twist of fate, kind of, where that guy, when he was the coach of Tata Martino, when he was the coach of Atlanta United, he wouldn't play this kid. He just didn't have any time for him. And as soon as he left to go coach the Mexican team, the kid Miles Robinson started playing, and like very quickly they realized he was like one of the best players at his position in the entire league. And so now he's turned around, and he played this entire tournament and played absolutely amazing. And then he scored the game-winning goal at just like the most dramatic fashion possible. And he may be responsible for the guy who wouldn't play him getting fired from his job now. So I love those kinds of experiences. I've been a sports fan my entire life. Grew up a Mariners fan, then a Seahawks fan, and I'm a Galaxy fan now. And just there's something that's very spiritual about sports I think that they're kind of they're right now they're the channel for certain energies that don't get channeled anywhere else. The sense of kind of camaraderie and working together as a group to overcome some sort of obstacle, all kind of willing together and directing your energies toward a common purpose. This is a natural feature of human life. It always has been. And because we don't really fight wars anymore directly, like in hand-to-hand combat, I think all of that energy is now being turned into sports. And like it or not, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it is a thing. And so there's something that's very very spiritual about participating in a sporting event like that. When you hear the crowd roar when something happens, when there's like the build up and the tension before a goal, and then that release of emotion and exultation and accomplishment and everything from the goal being scored. I've never experienced it in any other venue. I don't know if other people have different things that do that for them, but I've always I've wrestled with this because I have this sense that it's like, oh, this is just kind of a waste of time. And, all this time I spent sitting here for the last 2 hours just watching these guys run around. Was that wasted time? Could I have spent all that time doing something else? And I keep coming back to, when these events happen, there's something that's just so pure and beautiful and spiritual about it that I don't know. I got to keep coming back. Are you a sports fan at all? You follow sports?
Welcome back to the View Pilled, vaguely more masculine edition with Matthew Erickson and Steve.
Which one of us is Whoopi?
Hopefully me.
You're a bad bitch.
Carlos, actually, this money was sort of echoing what you were saying in the chat. Let's see. Football evoques emotion. So basically, he's saying soccer brings out brings out emotion in people.
Strong feelings.
Loosely, yes. Yeah, no, I think there's it's sort of it's like I think it's a good release for sort of the feminized men that we are these days. Share your conditioner tips in the comments, fellas. Leave-ins,
We were
everything.
just before we went live. We were talking about our woes with our hair.
Yeah.
So if you guys would have gotten that in on the front end of this, then that view pill joke would have been even funnier to you.
Yeah. No. I mean, I grew up playing sports. My dad was a heck of an athlete. Not to brag, but like I think you hear people use the term like alpha or whatever, or any of these like terms that people kind of throw around, like alpha male, this, that, and the third. My dad's a real one. I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know. I think you could probably go your whole life and not meet like a real like alpha. You know what I mean?
Huh.
I know from growing up and me kind of being on the periphery of just like, that guy's kind of artsy, maybe homosexual, and then, and just fast forward like 10 or 20 years later, I'm like, by comparison to like, what how guys are carrying themselves these days, I'm like a fucking gorilla, I'm like Tarzan by comparison, which is very sad commentary on the state of masculinity. But like my dad is just some guy who would just pull over to like fight cops, just fucking lunatic or whatever.
Guy was hard, huh?
He was something soft, hard, and soft. But yeah, no, so I grew up playing sports and eventually, spent my 20s in like combat sports and stuff like that. And you gotta get it out of your system one way or the other, whether it's like first hand or second hand or whatever. But yeah. It's very necessary. Actually, Legal Man had an episode where he was talking about, people who talked about how like sports were, people just go on a thing and talk about how like sports are dumb and rah rah, this team is going to beat this team. He had a whole soliloquy about what a dumb like attitude that was, and it was just a better version of politics, and it was like a more healthy thing to participate in than participating in fucking politics.
Totally, yeah. It's the same energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's funny, Jose in the comments, he says still mad Mexico's getting punished for us fans yelling puto. So that's a where sports and politics cross over. So there's a thing with especially Mexican fans is every time that the opposing goalkeeper is gonna do a goal kick, or he's gonna kick the ball all the way down the field, they as he backs up away from the ball to get the running start to kick it, they start going, oh, and as he runs up, as he kicks it, they all go puto.
So Mexican, dude, they're playing by a whole different set of fucking rules.
Yeah.
Like it just, I forget what it was too. I heard like background Spanish in like a TV show or something like that. In like I was like, what the fuck? But it was shit that like it just doesn't. I don't even know how they get it by this, because you would think that like censors and stuff like that, like there's enough that would just be like, okay, yeah, I know enough Spanish to know what the fuck that means. But just the conversation, the words and in the meanings, it's just like you cannot in English get away with a lot of that shit. But yeah, it is so awesome to watch cultures just not play by the rules that like we are. I was in I went to a class in Miami like within the past few years. And it's just like, man, this is not the United States of America. Just like very like casually, just like saying the word bitch in front of like women as part of the class, and stuff like that.
Well, it's funny because different Spanish-speaking countries, the word puto has a different connotation in different Spanish-speaking countries. So in some places, it's kind of like, it's maybe like asshole or dickhead kind of, or something like that, where it's crude and it's derogatory, but it's not necessarily loaded in the same way. But then in certain, I think, and my understanding is that this is one of the more uncommon meanings of it or connotations of it. It's a synonym for a word that kind of sounds like flabbit. It's considered homophobic. And so that, of course, is the meaning of it that the whole soccer culture has latched onto. And so there's like, we need to get rid of this homophobic chant that's being, well, obviously this isn't something that's being driven by Hispanic people. This is something 100% being driven by bougie white like college kids. Those are the people who are driving the change, and everybody else has just fallen right in line with it. There was kind of a bit of hullabaloo, but everyone kind of fell in line. And so now the actual the soccer federation has put in laws, or like a rule that if in a game, if like in an official game, that chant happens, then there's a 3-step process where first they warn the crowd, and then the second time it happens, they pause the game, and the players just like don't play for a little bit, and then they just added a stoppage time at the end. And then the third time, they leave, like everyone leaves the pitch. And then I think that if I remember right, everyone leaves the pitch and they're gone for a while before they come back. Or maybe it's like at that point they just cancel the rest of the game, and the rest of the game is played behind closed doors.
I would really like to see like the people that are responsible for this rule. I would like to see those people attempt to get a stadium full of Mexicans
to stop doing that.
That would be. I got goosebumps thinking about how happy that would make me. Fuck, that should be a fucking Olympic sport.
But what's funny then is, so then
white college kids have to interrupt a stadium full of Mexicans watching a football game. Yeah. That should be a motherfucking Olympic sport. That is so much better than bullfighting.
Survive.
Holy shit.
So they'll like it always, especially playing. It happened in the game last night, and they had to do their little warning. And so afterwards, they did what in the prior game. I think it was against Canada. Mexico was playing Canada, and I think the game was 1-1, and in maybe the 70-somethingth minute, and they did the Mexican fans were doing the puto chant, and so it happened multiple times. So they got to the stage in the process where they paused the game and just like shut it down, and nobody played for a little while, and they started back up again for like 3 or 5 minutes or something. So they added it that time as stoppage time at the end of the game. So the game was 1-1, and it went till the 99th minute, I think, and they had that extra stoppage time tagged onto the end of it, and Mexico won in the 99th minute. So like the stoppage time that was accumulated because of Mexican fans doing this illegal chant is what ultimately helped the Mexican team win the game. So it's just
fucking awesome.
It's the most ham-fisted, incompetent, and it's just bougie white people trying to enforce white people's culture on not white people for the sake of the not white people in their minds.
They should write like a heartfelt message. The country of Mexico has heard you, and we are now, we recognize the error of our ways. Now, in order to celebrate the beautiful transformation that occurs from the beginning to the end of a penalty kick, we will now be chanting Mariposa, and we'll just watch to see how the penalty kick develops into something beautiful, like a butterfly. That would be my advice. Carlos, what do you think about that one?
The passion of non-Americans. This is one thing, like when American teams are successful at soccer, it pisses all the other countries off, because the majority of Americans don't give a shit about soccer. But especially in like Central and South American countries, the soccer is a religion. It is the thing that people form their tribes around. And this ties into what here's your segue. This ties into the stuff we talk about here on this show. That's the sort of a thing that gives people commonality, that people can organize themselves around this one central idea. And it's like, once you have this idea that gets embedded into the society, then people can identify someone else and how to relate to them just purely based off this single element. So if somebody's wearing the other team's colors, then you know that you're going to have a different relationship with that person than someone who is wearing your team's colors. And automatically you're able to bring a certain level of understanding to that interaction, and it'll inform the way that you guys behave. Like, okay, I can trust this person or I can't trust this person. And this person's likely to treat me well versus not likely to treat me well. Like when you have that thing that's a point of commonality, that facilitates human interactions. So the desire to eliminate tribalism, to not have these sorts of people look at that and they're like, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, we need to all just be out for the human race. We're all we're not white or black or yellow or any other race. We're just the human race. That sentiment is, I think, for a lot of people, it comes from a good place. Like people kind of mean well, but unfortunately, the majority of people are idiots, and with the things that they do meaning well actually wind up causing a lot of harm. So people are they create a new tribe, the tribe of trying to get rid of everybody else's tribe, and there's a name for that kind of tribe. That's communism. That's the spirit of communism.
And, not to be controversial or, fear monger or anything like that, but I think in this country, we really need to keep an eye on that kind of a thing, because I just have a sinking feeling that one day it could get really out of hand.
Yeah, someday, but not today. Things seem just fine. What are you talking about?
We'll keep hyper vigilant.
Carlos says that this is his shit over at Los Libertinos. Football unites. Absolutely. It's the religion. It functions as a religion, and that's a kind of religion I think you can build on top of other religions. So it's I don't think that soccer and Christianity, for example, have to be mutually exclusive. I think that you can have tribes layered on top of tribes. So even within, say, an entirely Christian country, you wouldn't all be you wouldn't all be part of the same group. You would each have functionally, you would each have your smaller groups that you're broken down into, that you just identify with more. And that's a natural human state. That's a natural state of being. That's a natural way of human beings to arrange themselves, and they'll naturally go that way unless people artificially interfere into the system and give people incentives to not do that, to go into unnatural tribes or unnatural categories. The tribalism is if you read the book about the fourth turning, he talks about how millennials are going to be a group that kind of like TikToks. There's like the tick, and then you have the talk going back the other way. It's kind of like Gen X was the tick, and they were all the rabid individualists, kind of, we're out for our own latchkey kids. They're much more nomadic in personality. And then the talk going back the other direction with the millennials is much more collective, and where the idea of differentiating yourself or going it alone or being a renegade, all of those kinds of things are now becoming very bad. Those are seen as major faux pas, cultural social faux pas. So they're going to look suspiciously upon people who act that way. So being this whole like, oh, I'm an individualist, just from a strategic perspective, is could potentially make you more likely to get a target on your back. I just would put it that way. It's not that you shouldn't do it. Do whatever you want, but just recognize what the consequences of your actions are going to be. And if you encounter the natural consequences of your interaction of your actions, then just don't be surprised.
What a time to be an Enneagram 4. Am I right, guys?
Is that what you are? Are you a 4?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know I don't remember what I am. I have to ask my little sister, Heidi. Shout out Heidi. She's going to be here tonight. She's flying in. She's going to spend the week with us and hang out with her nephew and enable her brother and sister-in-law to get some stuff done. But it's really excited to have her come down. But she's all into this Enneagram stuff. I did the Myers-Briggs, the MBTI thing, the Jungian cognitive functions. That's been my jam in the past, and I'd kind of like to get back into it. There's a couple of people who professional, like have videos and stuff where they talk about it and they do analysis on it. And I'd love to be able to bring someone on the show and talk to them because I think a lot of that stuff is really fascinating. But the Enneagram thing, I've never been able to completely wrap my mind around. So I'll have to have my sister remind me of what I am, and then we can do more view pilled.
Yeah, exactly. That would be pretty funny. We should really just take a fucking turn. Call it fucking queen pilled. Oh god. Sorry, I almost ruined your microphone. Yeah, it's just no offense to your sister or anybody else who subscribes to this, but it's such fucking bullshit. And I'll give you an example. I came out to be a 4, the individualist, the sensitive, withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Yeah, it doesn't fucking sound like me. You want?
R.I.P. Curly T's Steve. He's gone. Oh, INTP, INFJ, INTJ. I'm an ENTJ. And Amy, I think, is an ESTJ. So for those of you who habla MBTI, it's an ENTJ married to an ESTJ. It makes for some very interesting. We're two very, very strong personalities. So it's we compete for each other's airspace a lot, and we've got this constant rivalry going, which is a lot of fun. If you're listening, Amy, I love you. Okay, so I don't know if Steve is going to be Enneagram 4ing for the rest of the show, but if he is, that's fine. You guys should go like this video, and you should subscribe to the channel, and you should share this episode. We're going to actually get into, after spending 30 minutes just kind of BSing about stuff that's not really related to the actual subject. We're going to actually get into it now. So, look at that.
I will come back.
Sting.
But I have...
Or not Sting, but Slash.
I have demands. I will not be called sensitive and dramatic and self-absorbed, because I will fucking kill myself live on the goddamn internet. Do you understand me?
All right, Chris Cornell.
All right, sorry.
Oh, Amy's getting ahead of us. What? Did
he kill himself live on the internet?
No. I was just making a dark joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh. So there was this conversation going this week about on Liberty Twitter, which is where we get all of our inspiration for everything we talk about, I guess.
Yeah, it's like Black Twitter, but not funny and terrible.
It's like Black Twitter except white. The subject of conversation, as it is wont to do among a big group of libertarians, turned to debates about borders. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to make sure that we got my opinion on the record, my opinion on borders, and what I believe the ideal state of borders is with the state. And my official position is I don't give a shit. How do you possibly think this is something worth talking? I mean, I understand the people I'm dealing with here. I understand that this is libertarians, and libertarians specialize in speaking as a libertarian. Libertarians specialize in spending all of our time and energy on completely inane shit that will never have any bearing on the actual world. But in this case, this is a unique case here, because when you debate borders, like what the moral case for what's the most moral form of borders, open or closed, you're assuming, like you're already assuming the opposite of your own premise. Like you're debating, how should this illegitimate institution illegitimately perform this illegitimate function? Like the open versus closed borders thing, like within a libertarian context, would be property, like private property. And can you defend okay, so closed border, okay, like that's the problem solved. But it's like, when you have this open versus closed border, you're assuming the existence of a state and then saying, now, how should this state police its own borders? The answer to how the state should police its own borders is however it frickin' well pleases. You don't have any influence over it. You're not the person determining it. So I guess if you're just doing this as a way to just kind of like dick around and entertain yourself, then knock yourself out. But it's like, people are having formal debates and like arguing and acting like this is an issue of substance, or we really need to hammer this out and solve this problem. It's not like abortion is a relevant conversation. That's like an actual thing that has a tangible impact to the world, that you can actually might be able to save lives by arguing for a position. Like, that's something that's actually relevant. But arguing open versus closed borders is like arguing which corporate tax rate is better. It's by engaging in the conversation, you're already conceding the most important point, and you're already entering onto a territory that fundamentally defies your own presuppositions. So I don't understand this appeal to constantly get into debates about borders. But it's got to be. I tweeted this out, that this has got to be like the most blue-pilled conversation you could possibly have. If you think that number one,
Being
that
that
your
it's
opinion on
happening
borders is going to have any effect on
2021.
anything,
Being that it's
Right,
happening in 2021, yeah, it's this, yeah, for sure.
you're not going to affect anything. And even if you could, like, okay, so you're going to take energy away from doing something that actually matters to like move, like shift deck chairs around on the Titanic. It was like, oh, we're going to change the border policy to this thing instead of that thing. I mean, if that's your passion, if you're someone who like specifically works with immigrants, or with people trying to protect their property from immigrants, or whatever, if you're like specifically engaged in that industry, and you're talking about how am I going to solve a problem for these specific people, that's a different conversation. But this just kind of abstract theorizing about, like, hypothetically, if I, a libertarian, controlled the Democratic Republican state, how would I most morally apply my border policy? You can't get any more detached from the real world than that. And I guess that's about all I had to say about it. It just I had my whole Clint Eastwood, like, ugh, like, get off my lawn moment when I saw that conversation going on.
I would add the caveat that, and like, unless you see a deck chair that, like, when the ship starts to go vertical, is sort of positioned in a way that it is going to, fall directly onto your head, that might be a deck chair to be worth rearranging. But as far as any of this other shit, yeah, it's man, a lot of I guess I don't see how, and maybe people will get there, or maybe I'm wrong, but there's so many things that seem so 2012. You know what I mean? And like the open closed border, that certainly seems like one of them.
No wonder they think that they need another Ron Paul revolution. They're still living into 2012.
Hey now.
Speaking of, tomorrow I'm going to be recording a debate. I guess it's a debate with Angela McArdle on Lions of Liberty, with the great Mark Clare being the moderator. The premise that we're debating is, do we? I remember the exact phrasing, but it's do we need another Ron Paul revolution, in essence? And of course, I'm arguing in the negative. We do not need another Ron Paul revolution. Having another Ron Paul revolution would be actively a bad thing. So that'll be my position. I'm going to have my arguments laid out for it. But that'll be interesting. So keep an eye out for that. You can join the Lions Liberty Patreon, and you'll be able to probably watch it live, I think, or at least you'll be able to get early access to it. Otherwise, just keep an eye out to Lions of Liberty's the podcast or the YouTube channel, wherever they post it, and you can get that as soon as it drops. Also, shout out James Jenneman in the chat. James is a really good dude. Really, he's a fantastic interviewer. So he's got the Blackbird podcast. Go listen to his shows, and especially his conversations with LB Muniz. They're two of the sharpest guys around here doing the stuff that we're doing. And they've had a couple of really interesting conversations, and I had the privilege of joining them to discuss a lot of the stuff that we talk about here. And it was a very, very edifying conversation, and we're definitely going to have a round two. And I can't wait for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's see here. Which thing do I want to
just see real quick? So people are taking like a practical position about the borders. And I think I might be inclined to agree with them. I think maybe what Matt is saying is that there's not a fucking thing that really can be done about it. So it seems. Certainly not by having autistic arguments on the internet.
That's the thing. Like that strikes at a deeper point here, which is that anytime that you have a specific policy issue where you realize that you can actually make a difference in a libertarian sense, where you can actually accomplish something that isn't, just rearranging deck chairs. I can't think of any situations. I can't think of I'll say this. There isn't anything that immediately comes to mind, or even when I sit and think about it comes to mind, where the best way to handle that problem would be electoral politics. Almost exclusively, if the issue is actually worth addressing and actually worth changing, you're going to accomplish it through lobbying. You're going to accomplish it through the part of the formal government structure that can be responsive to non-government entities, or I should say non-regime entities. And can make a difference like that. It's almost always going to come through lobbying. So even if you decide, hey, this is something where the state, where I can actually advocate for some type of change within the state, or I can push this new policy that will be better, almost exclusively you're going to be best served doing that through lobbying. And most likely, with most situations, you're going to want to be able to, you want to keep that shit quiet. Like, you don't want to be like blabbing to the world what your scheme is. Just keep it down and just pay the people you need to pay to get the job done. Very rarely are you going to be in a situation, or do you want to be in a situation where you have to go through the electoral politics route, where you have to like try to get someone elected to try to do a certain thing. Once you're doing that, that's the most difficult route. And I think people don't fully appreciate that. Like, they think that they're like, oh, lobbying, that would just be, have to get all that money and all that. Like, that's the easy route. That's not pushing a boulder uphill. That's just pushing a boulder. But like, people look at it and they say, oh, this looks like pushing a boulder. So instead, I'm going to sit here and push a boulder uphill and take the electoral route. So even then, like, you don't need to have a party position on that issue. So, I mean, if you just want to just debate for funsies, just to entertain yourself for kicks and giggles, then, whatever, knock yourself out. But just be aware of that. And
at that point, you're just being a master debater. And I think what Matt is trying to say is that the only position that you need to have regarding borders is whether Barnes and Nobles is better.
Oh, God. You're done.
Sort of the opposite of a segue. Yeah. More like an emergency break in many ways.
Yeah. An emergency break in the middle of the highway. Okay, so there was here's one headline. The IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee,
I think. That bitch. Oh,
the IOC will investigate the X gesture made on the podium by U.S. shot putter Raven Saunders. She on the podium, she like crossed her arms like this, and it's apparently like she's advocating for downtrodden people or something like that. It's the X is the intersection of where all people who are oppressed meet.
Okay,
extremely brave.
That's wild. We should take a minute to really appreciate that. That's like on a stage like that too. That's man, that's crazy.
She's basically Joan of Arc. Mm-hmm. It's stunning and brave.
Man, so every once in a while, I'm such a softie, despite what that cunt enneagram fucking test says about me being so. It really does. You just want to give the benefit of the doubt sometimes that they're these young people, maybe they don't devote their fucking lives to observing political power and how it works and stuff, and just like, oh man, people really do see something in the world that they want to fix, and this seems like a reasonable way and a reasonable stance to take, and that lasts for, I get like that like 5 minutes each month, and then someone will do something and I turn into I turned into what a lot of people would call a right-wing authoritarian. In that quadrant, the upper right quadrant, but often on a diagonal at 45 degrees in a helicopter.
In a helicopter.
Yeah. But for 5 minutes, my heart aches. So
I know what you mean. I know where you're kind of like these poor dumb people. Like
I don't want to say it, but yes, absolutely. Or young, because like you have, I don't know, like every once in a while you'll talk to somebody a bit younger than you, and you realize it's like, oh, you haven't seen this happen enough times,
right,
over and over again. You know, it's like, oh, you weren't in elementary school when they were trying to scare you about AIDS, and you don't see the whole fucking just money making. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, maybe you'll get there. I don't know, but you're probably such a fucking lemming. Maybe you won't.
It's like these are the when they were born, there was they grew up through their I don't know, junior, like elementary, junior high school age. It was, they were listening to like Gen X content creators, so they had this very much fuck the system kind of mentality that was where they were like, this system of our parents and grandparents it's a bunch of old stodgy, dumb old people who don't understand the real world. And then the system started telling the things that they wanted to hear.
And then Gen X was just like, oh, the system. Fucking fucking Tom. That was Tom Morello, by the way. I'm just kidding.
Like, share, and subscribe, folks.
Yeah.
Trying to get to 1,000.
Yeah, don't screen cap. Whatever you do. No one screen cap that.
There's going to be like for the pre-made thumbnails afterwards that show up there. I guarantee one of them is going to be that, and I guarantee
this is going to be for my, if we get locked down again, by the way, in this goddamn godforsaken state, I am absolutely going to make it OnlyFans, and it's not. I don't have any delusion that's going to be for the ladies.
You and your water bottle.
Yeah, boy, am I thirsty. Oh. It's carbonated water, too.
A little tickle on the way down, huh?
What happened today? Anyway, airlines.
Right. Well, not yet. No airlines yet. We're still talking about the shot putter. So, first of all, I can tell you. So the details of it is that they have to investigate whether Rule 50, their rule which prohibits protests on the podium, was broken by her doing that. And first of all, what I can tell you is, spoiler alert, no, it was not broken. What she did actually did not apply to Rule 50. I know that already. I don't even need to know what Rule 50 says. I don't even need to know the history of it or the background or any of the legalese around it.
No,
I know
1,000% she did not break it.
She did not break it.
It's an absolute guarantee.
Because what she did wasn't a protest. What she did was an expression of her culture. And cultural expressions can't ever break rules.
Rule 50 could literally say, like, black female shot putters cannot be on the podium and make an X with their arms. See picture below, and it could show a picture like taken from a time traveler of her doing it, and she still didn't break Rule 50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. She 100% didn't break, because this is the what was the phrase that we talked about on the Yarvin thing, or it was a thread someone
Probably
did where they were talking about,
if they were talking about relation to me, I would say.
your good buddy Kurt,
yeah.
Manipulating procedural outcomes. That's what it was.
Yes.
Manipulating procedural outcomes. This is a fantastic example of it. What she did, it's not that I care. I'm illustrating this as I'm using this as an example.
Fans, like and subscribe, but never get confused with the idea of anything that we say that we care.
Right. We care about nothing.
Nothing. Thank you.
We don't even care about each other, honestly.
No.
We just mildly tolerate one another. So she definitely didn't break the rule, because the rule exists functionally to determine haves and have-nots. This is the way that it seems like a small thing, like an irrelevant thing, but this is the exact mechanism that has been used in every other institution. They just once you get a hold of all of the sense-making organizations, you just get to redefine your terms as much as you want to. And you get to dictate them because you're the one who controls the institutions.
It is
You're the
fun
one who controls
practice,
the
though.
people who are using it.
It's really fun once you start looking at like little things that seem insignificant and like where most people be like, wait, why do you care? We don't, you don't care. But it is that meme from that movie that the name that I don't remember. Good thing I got these. But he puts on the sunglasses. You just start seeing everything for sort of like what it is.
Oh yeah.
That little X-ray vision of what, what really goes on. And then something will happen and it will just strike you one day. It's just like, oh yeah, she didn't break the rule no matter what. It's like, oh, holy shit, I finally have the X-ray glasses.
Right. And then it's like, well, here's one that you guys can relate to really easily. Like we're just trying to communicate it to other people.
Yeah.
It's like, here's one that I can explain really easily. And you might be able to get kind of a little peek into what life looks like with the glasses on.
And again,
so it's not that
care less either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just something that came across that I saw here as I was getting ready to talk about this airline thing. So I had a funny tweet that got way more interactions than it should have 2 days ago or yesterday. I tweeted this yesterday. This is crazy. I just was like out walking, doing my morning walk with my son, and shout out Eastwood. And today's the 2nd. Yeah, he's 10 months old today. This is his 10-month-old birthday, and he is gigantic. He's wearing he has some 3T clothes that he's wearing. He's 10 months old. Anyways, so I'm out walking, doing our morning walk with him, pushing him in his stroller, and just kind of hanging out and talking to him. And a thought popped into my head, and I just pulled my phone out and I just opened up Twitter. I didn't even look at any of my notifications or anything. I just opened up Twitter, typed out this tweet, hit send, closed my phone up, and kept doing my thing with him. And a couple hours later, I finished with whatever I was doing, and I came back and I opened Twitter up, and it said I had 20 plus notifications. Now, I have 20 plus notifications just kind of in general. Whenever I like, ever since I was on Pete Quinones' show, my Twitter notifications are just absolutely wrecked, and there's no way of filtering them, unfortunately. So,
and at least 3 of them are unread messages from me from like months ago, probably,
yeah.
And passive aggressive build. sassy pilled. We should just change the name of the show. Like every couple episodes, we'll do like a gimmick show.
Have it's like No Agenda. No Agenda has album art for each one of their episodes, custom made album art for each episode. We could do that. We'll get the the Karen hair, the like blonde hair that's like. We're gonna get your Chad or your yes Chad shot, and we're just gonna put the Karen hair over it. And that'll be our Sassy Pilled logo.
It's so good. All right.
Anyway,
as you were, notifications. Pete Quinones show. Shout out Pete Quinones for forcing us to try to give something good to people because now there's a fucking audience. Thanks, Pete. It was really kind of cool just limp dicking it for a while, but nope, not now.
We're having so much fun just talking to nobody, and now we have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So I just have to bypass my notifications pane. I can't even get into it because there's it would take me too long. I get too distracted. So I just like swipe over and I go to my profile and I just scroll down and look at my tweets to see if there's any that have gotten enough traction that I need to go engage with them. And I scroll past this tweet and it had like 115 likes and 25 retweets and 100 replies. And I'm like, what in the how did this tweet of all the tweets, how is this the one that everybody got all worked up about? So, and basically every single one of the replies and quote tweets and were all people just completely in their feelings reeing at me.
Great.
Completely triggered. So the tweet was, if you aren't willing to get the poke, then you should be prepared to live in a world where commercial air travel is not an option for you. Now, I don't feel like that's that provocative of a thing to say. I didn't expect that to be provocative. I expected to get replies that were kind of like, oh man, that's kind of a sobering reality. And like have a conversation about how do you adapt? How do you work around that? How do you move forward with that being the case? You know, if you can't just go hop on a plane and fly across the country whenever you need to, how does that change the way that you behave? Because now suddenly, like part of what makes this world so globally interconnected is that in just a matter of hours, you can be on opposite sides of the country. You could go around the
that way.
What?
You know, maybe it's not supposed to exactly be that way.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think
Yeah.
that's there's probably more bad than good that comes from that.
And
But when you have one class of people that's capable of that kind of
Mhm,
travel
mhm,
and another class that's not, that's a whole different scenario.
mhm.
And that creates, I'm not saying that it's a bad scenario. I'm just saying it's one that is, kind of like heretofore unexplored. And
Mhm.
so perhaps we should have a conversation about how you adapt around that. How easy, look, people are like, oh, just create your own airline. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to run into any sort of institutional pushback there. When the whole point of this has nothing to do with protecting people from an illness. It's entirely about control. The entire purpose of creating a scenario like that is to lock a certain category of people out from the rest of society. So just being like, oh, we're just going to build our own company. Okay, so you're going to need to get funding. You're going to need to get past all these different regulatory bodies. You're going to need to, like, all these different steps there are all through territory that's completely controlled and owned and operated by your enemy. So this isn't, oh, just build another airline. This is build another society. Build all of the social infrastructure that airline would fit into. Because that's what I'm trying to get at. That's the trajectory of where we're going. And if people like us, if people who value what we value don't have our own institutions, we don't control institutions that can provide the things that we need to continue our way of life, then the alternative is dark. So that's what I was driving at with that tweet. But oh boy, I just absolutely kicked a hornet's nest of complete retardation. The tism is off the charts in the replies to this tweet. And I kind of went back and forth with some of them. And it was just, Michael Malice calls them the .exes. And typically the ones he's talking about are kind of your run-of-the-mill shitlib who is, just kind of reciting corporate press talking points and can't be budged off of them. But the libertarians have their own 3x5 card full of talking points. And the majority of them can't be budged from them no matter what.
What I've always liked about stuff like what you wrote and, the Facebook, being able to do whatever they want because they're private. I kind of like those topics and like the Somalia thing, because I feel like it forces people who roughly think about things the same way that I do to ask themselves new questions. And that's why I always like stuff like that. So I think it's like a little bit of like Schadenfreude, maybe, like on my part too.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, yeah, you're not gonna be on a plane again. Because I've kind of actually sort of accepted the idea that I might never ever be overseas again. Like that's a very real possibility. And it just that is what it is. But there's just these questions that I like to see people ask themselves who don't get off of that 3x5 card, their own libertarian 3x5 card. Are we changing speech? We're taking control of language. Man,
we are.
See what happens when you read the Machiavellians? You get to throw a monkey wrench in the Tom Woods machine. But like, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know. You've ruined it. You've ruined it. I don't remember what I was going to say. Okay. Enneagram 4, Steve. I don't even know if I'm Enneagram. I don't know the fuck you say that shit.
Do you have a wing?
I don't something. I wing to whatever is more favorable than 4. I would say maybe if the one next to is like achiever, that used to be me. But my spirit.
I think 3. I think I might be a 3.
Yeah, I think I wing 3.
Yeah, so it's kind of that's the 3 is like the kind of loud person, I think.
We're in the 3x4 card of allowable opinion here.
The 3-wing 4 card.
But it's just like, okay, so what? All right, so let's get it straight. You're the descendants of men who couldn't be governed. You're these like rugged badasses who just won't. But in the same breath, it's just like, I will not be told that I cannot get on a plane and fly through the sky to a new location whenever I want to. It just, did you not think that shit was going to get like hairier than that? That you just can't fucking jet set and have like a dope Instagram, I don't know. Things might get fucking real. It might get to the point where no, sir, son of people who couldn't be governed, you are not able to fly through the sky. And so it just, well, how important is that to you? Like, are you able to function as a person not allowed to fly through the sky, not allowed to shop at this or that store, whatever these fucking scenarios are, right? Are you able to exist in that world? And the other thing that I started trying to poke people about, no pun intended, or maybe it was, it is just like, there's a lot of your ancestors throughout human history up to the point that led you to be, what you general libertarian, finds to be the pinnacle of, political philosophy, where you're this Rothbardian libertarian. You've got it all figured out. Like, do you not think that at some point someone in your familiar history did one or two things that, they didn't think was great, but they sort of had to do it so that there could be another generation? Maybe you have to get a shot you don't want to get so you can keep your job, so you can keep food on the table. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Whether you do or whether you don't, if you grow you go in the middle of nowhere and grow your own food and, do the whole bit, is there any guarantee that your sons and daughters are going to not grow up to be sort of super blue pilled people? Like, I don't know, maybe they won't, maybe they'll fall right in line. But, how many libertarians do you know who have just like politically awful parents? Is everyone's parents here, a Rothbardian libertarian? I kind of just think it's a more dynamic conversation. And unless I also know everyone's running to tradition, orthodoxy, and all this stuff. and I think that's great. But it's also like, if you're like, I don't know. I mean, if born again Christians families, maybe the morality that they instill into their families is able to carry over to their sons and daughters. But I know a lot of people got raised like that are just fucking hellions because it hasn't steeped for generations and generations and generations. And the ones who are last to the party are always the loudest. But just because you come into some kind of faith practice yourself very enthusiastically halfway through your life or whatever, it doesn't mean that it is going to be it's going to carry out in any kind of particular way. I you know what I mean? I think that there's just so many paths to deal with a very uncertain, more than likely terrible future, that I think those are just things to consider. And I guess the line in the sand for each individual is going to be up to that person. But I don't know how much of an impact any of these choices particularly have, because at the end of the day, people are going to be people. In your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, however far in advance that you're thinking. I don't know how much relevance that a lot of these choices have onto those generations. Because I think the world just kind of might do what the world is going to do, and humanity is going to do what humanity is going to do, and your kids are going to do what they're going to do, and so on and so forth. Maybe you can't fly on a fucking plane, or maybe you really need to fly on a plane. I saw Malice tweet something. Were you about to give me a compliment?
No.
Okay, good. Because I can't handle that. So I saw Malice tweet something a while ago about a stewardess giving them shit about wearing masks or something like that, and he seemed pretty indignant about it. He's just corporations are just private authoritarian. I forget exactly what he said, but he was none too pleased about the airlines telling him that he needed to wear a mask, and that is very understandable. But I'm guessing at the end of the day, it's just like, well, you probably put it on, you probably did what you needed to do to get where you need to be, because that flight is presumably worth some kind of money or convenience for you, and putting on a mask. It's just like you're going with the flow. Also, I know you're an anarchist and whatever, and are surprised that people are taking this lying down, but just like we're all kind of taking it lying down at the end of the day, aren't we? Like I don't know. Maybe he led a revolution on a plane and didn't wear a mask. I have no fucking idea. But I mean, this is how all of your ancestors survived. They commensurate with their ability to operate outside of the system or not, they did whatever they had to do in order to create a new generation. So if for some people, I can't go in the middle of the woods. I am a useless male. I don't know how to do fucking anything. I can't fucking hunt. You know what I'm saying?
All you can do is dance.
Yeah.
Dance a bear to death.
I'm not getting out. I'm not. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I can run
Salsa
down
that motherfucker.
So so it's just like, look, if I had a fucking office job and I had kids and whatever, and my job was just like, you need to take this fucking shot to make money, I guess I'm taking a shot, right? I mean, I obviously already had mine, so
of course.
There's no worries there. But just a hypothetical, if I was like one of these I cannot be governed people, and if I was one of these crazy anti-science people, for example, one of these people that didn't understand science, but I understand science, so I obviously got my vaccine. But if I was one of those people, I think we'd probably have to do it, and that would be fine. That would be fine, because that was the decision that I made for my progeny.
For me personally, I've seen enough of the videos of people having like crazy nerve reactions and stuff that I've already got weird autoimmune issues that my nerves do weird things to me, and I think that there's probably some truth to the idea that if you think that you're going to get a bad response from the poke, you will actually get it. You'll will it into reality. And for me, I am so terrified that would happen to me, that I would get something like that I'm sure that I would just make it happen with my brain. But either way, I'm one of the people that I will go very far out of my way to avoid going down that pathway, because I'm not interested in that possible. You could take a lot of things from me, but the maintaining control of myself and being able to dictate the future of my body is very important to me.
Yeah, that's right, liberty lovers. Matthew and I are here advocating self-ownership. Just remember, you own your body, and you own your labor, and self-ownership is one of the guiding principles of King Pilt.
Right. Not the self-ownership that libertarians practice. They're constantly owning themselves. But see, there's one thing here, Tony, he says you just need a card that says you got to poke.
That scares the shit out of me.
A lot of people are talking like, oh, you just get your fake one or whatever. I feel like it's not going to be that easy.
I would be real hesitant about going down that road.
I said in our group chat that we're in together, I said that I think it's just a matter of time before there's criminal penalties associated with saying or representing yourself as having received the treatment when you haven't.
That's 1,000%. Yeah, and that's kind of a dangerous thing that I think, and we talked about this, where a lot of people sort of set themselves up where they think that the state is incompetent, and say what you want. The state's
inefficient, but that inefficiency is a feature. It's not a bug.
They will be able to figure that one out. Someone somewhere, like the idea that people would get fake vaccination cards, and any of the ways that you'll be trying to make fake vaccination cards and whatever, that's crossed their mind. That's been discussed, and depending, I don't know what the repercussions would be, or like when they will come, but that's one that I wouldn't chance, because like people were talking about that almost immediately. And I would also say, if you have someone offering you a fucking fake vaccination card,
Yeah.
I would be, I'd be so weary of that. Maybe even if you knew the person, I don't know. That just scares the fuck out of me, because I mean, that'll get called some kind of terrorism, or it could. It could. And I don't think I'm being overly paranoid when I say that.
That strikes
Some
me
sort of
like the
biological
idea that somebody would
terrorism.
the idea that somebody would offer you free or fake vax cards is like, that sounds a lot to me like some guy reaching out to you on Facebook Messenger and offering to sell you guns with the serial number like scratched off.
Yeah.
Like that's big glowy energy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, think about it from the perspective of the people who fully buy into all of this. That to them, if you are not getting the pharmaceutical treatment and you're faking that you did and putting yourself in a social setting where you are around lots of other people who think that you have it or who assume that you have it, think about that from their perspective. Like, they're going to see you as a fucking terrorist, like you said. They're going to see you as someone who is actively attempting to super spread. Like, that's how you're going to be perceived. So people aren't just going to shrug that off and just be like, whatever. People are going to slip through, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, you're a science-denying conspiracy theorist, white supremacist at that point, for sure.
Right. Yeah, you're actively. Honestly, they're going to treat you like a traitor. That's what you're going to be reacted to as. So I don't see I don't really see a way around this kind of thing.
Build your own airline. That's what we were trying to tell you to do.
Apart from just basically kind of retreating into localized societies, into red states where people people aren't insane about all this. Because I don't think that each state is going to be treated the same way. The regime cannot police the entire country at the same level of focus. They're going to be able to do quite a bit, but they're not going to be able to treat the whole country that way. So there's going to be areas that are better than others. And so the thing is, just get yourself to those areas. But I think the reason I tweeted what I did is because I want to get people thinking about these like visualizing what society is going to look like coming down the pike. And, when, maybe even people like, oh, I'll just order my groceries online. Okay, well, what if they just won't even do business? Like, you can't create an account to order your groceries without proving that you've received the pharmaceutical treatment. Like, what are you going to do then? How are you going to work around that? I'm not saying that I'm not trying to like doom and gloom, like, oh, this is the end of the world, this is the apocalypse. I'm saying these are very realistic scenarios that could happen. And are you putting yourself in a position where you could work around that? Because if you're someone who it's not an option to participate in the pharmaceutical experiment, then you need to be proactive about putting yourself in a position where you can work around that. I don't know if I'm fully in that position yet. We're working on it with our family. We're working on putting ourselves in a place where we don't have to worry about these kinds of things. But when I see this type of scenario, and I'm like, we don't have viable solutions to some of these problems right now. We have kind of like cross your fingers, hope and pray, and hope things don't get crazy really fast. But we don't have like legitimate alternative institutions, alternate solutions that we can just all immediately port over to. And so when people are on the internet, like, we're going to debate borders again, that's just got me like, how is this possibly something that strikes you as something worth prioritizing? Dylan says, I think I'm going to be somewhat okay here in Idaho for a while. Yeah, I think Idaho is probably going to be one of the better places to be because, number one, the types of people that are there. Number two, the relative. It's not going to be like prime territory that doesn't. It's not like it doesn't have a coast. It doesn't have anything of immediate strategic value necessarily, apart from there being a lot of agriculture in the southern part of the state. But So I think that Idaho is, that may very well be where we wind up.
I have a question about Idaho. Are there a lot of like craft breweries around? That's
I don't
always
know.
a good, well, for the man in the chat.
Right.
That would be a good indicator to see sort of how long, until the infection sort of takes hold there.
I suspect that there aren't very many, especially in the northern part of the state. If you go to the northern part of the state, that's probably going to be, the northern part of the state is either going to be a the first place to fall because all of the resources are going to be trained on the skinheads, or it's going to be like one of the last holdouts because trying to burn all those guys out of there would be like trying to like burn out some cockroaches or something like that. And I say that as a um I think
Cockroach.
that they yeah, I'm a cockroach. I think that they are in a they have insulated themselves in there pretty well, I think. And I think that there's, you don't have to like everything about them to be able to learn something from them. But I think being able to create insular communities like that is going to ultimately be of a lot of value. It seemed like there was a thought there that we'd left open that we needed to tie up. I don't remember what it was. Until Zuckerberg moves to Boise. Yeah. That
Oh fuck.
the big question is, at what point do some of these billionaires, it's like as all the coastal cities and all the major urban areas start to decrease more and more into shithole status, pretty soon all the wealthy people are going to bail, and they're going to look at all the areas that everyone else wants to go, and they're going to value them for the same reasons. So I think ultimately we're going to start seeing moves where states or regions are going to kind of start fighting back and preventing people from relocating to their area. Like in the vein of something like you can't vote for the first 10 years after you move to this area. I don't think it'd be that kind of policy. I don't think they could actually get that done. Civil rights
That'd be
activists
so
would lose
hot
their
though.
mind. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
But like that kind of thing, like people, like municipalities and counties and states are going to start making warfare in that sense, kind of some sort of Cold War, where they're blocking people's ability to relocate into their area and kind of take the ideological infection into some of the more deep red holdouts. I think that's going to be a really interesting fight to watch as it unfolds, and it's worth keeping an eye on for strategic purposes so that you can keep for me, it's keep myself away from those kinds of things. I don't want to be in the areas where everyone is fighting over some sort of prime piece of territory. That's part of the reason why I'm kind of like about relocating to Texas. Sorry, Poppy Libs and Carlos and Buck and all the rest of my friends there. That's one of the reasons that I'm a little bit about relocating to Texas, because on one hand, it's like, hey, here's where there's the Texan spirit, and there's going to be lots of allies and everything. On the other hand, it's very likely to be one of the focuses of the battle, and I'd rather just be somewhere under the radar, Wyoming or North Dakota or something like those kinds of places. The only problem there is you have to deal with sun with snow rather.
Yeah, is my girl in South Dakota still holding strong?
Christy Nome?
Yeah.
She's caved to some sort of aspect of the cathedral recently. I don't remember what it was. But she kind of fell behind DeSantis by a good bit. Speaking of DeSantis, go listen to Poppy Libs on Pete Quinones. Just came out yesterday or the day before. He had some strong words. I really appreciated the gauntlet he threw down to the Florida LP, talking about running a candidate, a spoiler candidate against DeSantis.
Is that like a plan that they have?
There's people there who are talking about it. I don't know if it's an actual plan or if it's just some retard shooting off their mouth on the internet. But Poppy Libs had the perfect response for it.
That is really just like the lack of awareness is just incredible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Peter says, "Hey Matt, think you can shout out Carlos Los Libertinos podcast again? He's been getting great guests, and his recent clips have direct overlap with you. TLDR, send eyeballs to your sponsorship daddy." I like that, sponsorship daddy. We've got us a sponsorship daddy, and we will very happily send more eyeballs over there. Go check out Los Libertinos. Carlos, owner of Paloma Verde, he's a good dude, and this is another reminder to me that I need to. I feel really bad. Carlos has been in my list of to dos to connect with him and set up an interview, but I had to get through the month of July because month of July was rough. But I needed to get through that before I could start scheduling interviews again. So as soon as I'm done here, Carlos, I'm going to reach out to you and we'll set up that interview because I can't wait to talk to you. We can talk about aligning interests. Okay. I think that's probably about all that I had on my mind today. Do you guys have any questions or anything else you want to hear us give our opinions about, since our opinions are so special?
We are looking to see if there's anything regarding the pursuit of achieving real freedom in our lifetime. We know how to do it, but we need to be prompted by the appropriate questions.
That's right.
We're very withholding.
Cyprian says, "I think woke poke is a good algorithm avoiding turn to refer to the jab." That's pretty good. Woke poke. That's why I was saying woke. That's why I was saying the poke in my tweet, because I'm trying to come up with words that, it's not that I'm trying to hide or anything. It's just that I'd rather kind of try to skate under the algorithms and not like directly get myself on their radar. So I kind of will try to pick and choose my words a little carefully sometimes, just so I don't use the really big buzzwords. I like woke poke. Eventually, I'm sure it's going to be like woo flu or something like that, where it's going to become a hate term or something like that. But that'll do for now.
Right. That makes sense.
He says the reason the jabbed have to wear coverings again is because the jab doesn't work as advertised. No, I'm on Twitter.
Oh, okay. I was so confused. I was like, I don't see any of this shit.
He said the reason they have to wear things over their faces again is because the jab doesn't work as advertised. This is not really up for debate. That's what is occurring. He's made a really good point that you actually can't, like, in a technical sense, you can't call it a V word because it's not a V word. It's not, like, by definition. If you look at it's just a matter of time before the definition is changed, just like herd immunity's definition was changed in the dictionary. But it's something that confers immunity, and explicitly, if you look at any of the actual advocacy for the pharmaceutical product, it explicitly says that it does not confer immunity. So if it doesn't confer immunity, by definition, it can't be a V and an axe emoji.
I remember some debates a while ago where people were discussing the same thing with measles and or just the MMR in general. And some people would say, oh, well, if your children are vaccinated, they don't need to worry about it. And even back then, years ago, people were saying, well, you don't understand how vaccines work. Maybe I don't understand how vaccines work. But maybe are they supposed to confer like absolute immunity? Or because I remember that exact conversation being had about not this virus.
Here's the definition from Oxford Languages for the V word. A substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies and provide immunity against one or several diseases, prepared from the causative agent of a disease, its product, or a synthetic substitute, treated to act as an antigen without inducing the disease.
Do we got a doctor in the house? Maybe there's a doctor, somebody medical who knows about this. But I very distinctly years ago remember that very same discussion being had involving the MMR one, and they were like blaming, I think they were like, there was a context of like blaming like the Hassids in New York for like causing like a measles outbreak or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And someone was saying, well, if you're vaccinated, then why do you give a shit? And someone came back with, well, you don't understand how vaccines work then. And I thought, when I heard that, I was like, well, maybe I don't understand how vaccines work, in fact.
Yeah, I'm just reading the definition.
Right, yeah, no, sure. Well, maybe Oxford Oxford doesn't either.
Maybe Oxford doesn't understand how vaccines work. I need to have Carla from Boston needs to come explain to me how vaccines work, and then I'll know.
Hell yeah, that sounds hot.
Jose, you said a couple times in here something about a gamer word, and I don't know if you said opinion on gamer word. Were you? I don't know what that's a reference to. That was something that we're supposed to reply. Call it the Cuomo homo. That's great. I know that I saw a thing. I'm gonna figure out how to say this without, because this is definitely something that would get us. That would get this, probably get the channel booted.
We're at 940 subscribers, so we only got 60 more to go. It's time to put the pedal to the fucking metal.
We got to step it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you look at I think it was the patent application or some sort of the formal paperwork related to the woke poke, it specifically used the word. It at no point does it call it a V word, and it multiple times in the document it had the word therapy, and specifically it referred to it as a you know how you might have some pants that are made out of denim, and you would call those.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that word plus therapy.
Really?
That's what it was referred to as.
Is that real?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find the document
based
again.
On how it
documents.
How it functions?
Yes. That's what it's advertised as. It's
Do
advertised as.
Do they all, by the way, work with that same small letter, 3 big letters? Or is there a more, like, I thought one of them was a more classic old school V axe emoji.
The J&J one
is old school?
Is old school from my understanding.
Yeah. and yet that's the one that everyone was free to talk about how many fucking problems. Oh,
right.
Great.
Right. Exactly.
Oh no.
That's why people were like, see, look, their narrative is crumbling. It's falling apart.
Oh,
I'm like, no, you dummies.
Yeah,
that's the one that they're yeah, of course there's something that's wrong with that.
That is the Republican Party of the vaccines.
Exactly. That's a fantastic analogy. That's exactly what it is.
That's the controlled opposition.
Right.
Oh boy.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, we've got about 90 minutes in. That was pretty good. I think
nice
that's
little pithy one for you.
Yeah. Borders, bootlickers, and bus passes. Obviously, the bus passes are for everyone who can't get on the I see what the gamer word is. Bus passes are for the people who can't get on the bus, and then can't get on the plane. And then the bootlickers. What was that? We had a good joke about boots going into it. What was that?
Oh yeah.
It was your boots are made for walking. Yeah.
I hope those boots are made for walking, Buster. I mean, if you are the descendants of the men who would not be governed, men.
The weirdest responses that I got on that tweet was people who were like, I haven't flown on a plane ever since 9/11, and they went and they instituted the porn scanner machines, and I never fly on planes, and I'm like. And they're touting this as like a badge of honor. Like, look at me. I haven't flown on a plane in 23 years.
I think that's pretty base, to be honest with you. We disagree. I think that's pretty awesome. They planted their flag. They're just like, no,
true.
I'm not doing this. It's this weird things. You're gonna see my crammed up in a corner of my boxer's dick. Even though I know that you're. It says that you don't, but we all have seen the pictures, and you definitely do. That's kind of weird. I'm not doing it. I keep doing this. Just to show what we're talking about. But they said no. But I feel like those are 1911 carriers, and again, they were right. It's they're very make funable, but they usually know what's up a good bit in advance. And so,
but to me, it's like. It's like you're not owning anybody else. It's not like people are hurting because all you've done is you have just embodied for yourself all of the inconvenience. And if there's any pain involved in here, it's not the people who aren't getting your money. because you're not like supporting the airlines or whatever. The only person who is experiencing any pain is you. And maybe you just like that kind of pain. Maybe it's not pain to you, which, okay, cool, knock yourself out. But
if I wanted to fly real bad, I guess, but like I don't want to fly. I hate flying so much. You know,
I love flying. I love airports. Like the whole thing. I've always loved it.
I hate everything that is. I hate any part of traveling that is not reflecting on it after it has already happened. I can't fucking stand, including being there. Like I want to be anxious about the planning of it and all the logistics. I need somebody to tell me that I'm going someplace, and like not really give me like a choice. I want to complain about it the whole time. I want to be insufferable on the ride to the airport and just be grumbling and worried about being on there all the time. I want to complain about the flight and the airlines the whole time. And people tell me to take my shoes off in one airport and not take them off in another one. You know, I want to be homesick the whole time that I'm on vacation, and every other little detail that you would expect that a person who's been a curmudgeon ever since he was born, you know, would be like living out. And then after everything is done, I'm home. I want to, you know, like a couple months later, just be like, that's pretty fun. That's what travel is supposed to be. And if you do it any other way than that, you're doing it entirely wrong. You're doing it so wrong. The best photograph I ever took, I took this panorama. It like won like a fucking award, like one of the only photography contests or whatever that I entered. But it was I was so pissed when I took it. It was raining. My girlfriend at the time, we were in Puerto Rico, and like my girlfriend at the time was just kind of like gallivanting around, and I was just like, we're gonna be late. What the fuck? It was like raining, and so anyway, I just like really quickly, I was like, maybe I'll just get like while we're here, in this woman's ruining my life. I'll take a few quick pictures and see if I can stitch them together into a panorama. It was the best photograph I've ever taken, and like I didn't know it until I got home, but I was so miserable the whole time. But like in my mind, like what it actually is just like, yes, you know, God spoke to me on top of this fucking, you know, San Cristobal fucking castle and told me that I must, you know, take these photographs, and it would be the best photograph that I've ever taken in my life. But really, I was just curmudgeoning around. And as usual, someone had to force me to basically to do something.
Is that your Italian side?
Oh yeah. What a Is there any Italians in here? Fuck all you miserable people. What a useless group of fucking people. If you're Italian, you can go straight to hell. Seriously.
That's going to be the thing that gets our channel deleted.
Yeah, no, no, because that's the one group of people you can still be racist to as Italians. It's totally fine. You can,
right?
Yeah, it's totally like stereotypical and like whatever, say terrible things. If you're Italian,
and like prior to World War II, Italians were considered N-words.
Right. Yeah, like very literally. Yeah. Oh no. No, my mom will let you know if you forgot.
Shout out Mama Messina.
If you're Italian, smile ever, okay, and just pretend like you're enjoying life, or stop smiling so fucking much that you're a goddamn cartoon character. You fucking buffoon. They're either buffoons or just fucking miserable, and I hate both of them. And like it's a rare exception. It's just like there's like 10% of like Italians that are just like, okay, you figured out how to like, you know, exist and not be one of those two things.
Pareto.
Like that's fine.
Pareto strikes again.
Oh my God. I hate Pareto. I hate all of them. I never saw The Godfather until like a year ago. Also. But
I've never seen it.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah, if you're Italian, kill yourself.
There goes our channel.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, last thing. I gotta give this guy a shout out. Shout out Colton Hogan. He one of the best threads on my on my tweet that got all the autism in the thread. He apparently he replied, and he took my tweet very seriously and assumed that I was advocating for people not to be allowed on airplanes. And then he says, I should have looked to see where you were from first, but after I looked, it made sense because my thing says I'm from Southern California. And I said, you should spend a little more time looking and you might understand your actual role in this conversation. And he said, and I bet your son shits his pants, loser. And I was like, Yeah,
Safe bet.
because that's what 10-month-olds do. They shit their pants. And then he doubled down on it and he said it again. He was like, I'm not going to roast your son because he shits his pants. I was laughing for like 20 minutes yesterday at this guy,
Pretty
Colton
funny.
Hogan, who just had to insist that there's something wrong with my son because he shits his pants. I've never actually had someone try to convince a parent that there's like his son shits his pants and that's out of the ordinary or something. It's
Imagine
a very
that
normal
this guy
baby
is
thing.
doing sort of a sarcastic thing that like you're not getting, and you guys are just totally talking
Right.
past each other. You know what I mean? That'd be
That
so
thought
great.
occurred to me.
Yeah, the internet is not for communication. It just
No.
isn't.
No, it's just for shit
Like
posting.
most especially Twitter. Yeah, no, there's no like reasonable hope for understanding that you're supposed to have on the internet, like ever.
The one other good thing for the internet though is Instagram and my Instagram @RealKingPilled, where you can go and you can see pictures of my absolutely glorious future God Emperor of the world, young son Eastwood. I'm just sitting here looking at some pictures that Amy just tagged me in on Facebook, and I'm going to be taking those pictures and posting them on Instagram. So you guys, when you're finished here, you can go to Real King Pilled on Instagram, and you can see the man who will one day rule your world, and his little romper. Anyways, okay. So follow me on Twitter.
the epitome of masculinity. You can see him in this romper.
Exactly.
That's good.
Follow me on Twitter @RealKingPilled. Follow Steven on Twitter @Messina Inc. Follow us or subscribe to our channel on YouTube and share this show. Like the episode, share it. Go to PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Use promo code KING. Get some quality CBD products. And Steven, as we leave you today, will deep throat the water bottle one more time.
I was going to see if I can get something going on the business end of this thing, if you know what I'm saying.